Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into two really gripping case studies that reveal the hidden identities of the people all around us. They carry a super powerful message about human nature, breaking down exactly how society's obsession with status can completely blind us to the incredible realities standing right in front of our faces.
It's a pretty fascinating question, right? What actually happens when the very people we overlook, or maybe even look down upon, turn out to be the ones who hold the keys to our future? We so often equate monetary wealth with human value. We just assume someone's worth is tied directly to their bank account or their job title. But as we'll see in the narratives we're analyzing today, falling into that trap has some absolutely incredible and sometimes devastating consequences.
Section 1. The Trap of Appearances. Section 2. The Billionaire's Blind Spot.
All right, let's look at exactly how assuming we know someone's worth just by looking at their job or their clothes can lead to some catastrophic misjudgments. We've got a stark contrast here. On one side, we have Noah. He's an 18-year-old community college student busting his back, working nights as a delivery driver just to support his single mom. On the other side is Richard Sterling, literally one of America's wealthiest and most ruthless businessmen. We're talking about a billionaire genius who owns hotels, tech companies, luxury real estate, the whole shebang. Two people from completely different worlds whose lives are about to collide.
So the inciting incident of our first case study kicks off when Noah is out delivering food to Richard's massive mansion in the middle of a pouring storm. Noah apologizes for being late because of traffic, but Richard, he has zero empathy. He ruthlessly slams the door, but not before delivering this brutal insult. People who work harder don't spend their lives delivering burgers. It's a textbook example of judging someone entirely by their current uniform. But Noah noticed something kind of strange. Richard's face felt oddly familiar.
Right after that awful encounter, tragedy strikes. Noah's mom gets terribly ill with a rare heart condition. The medical bills are just astronomical, forcing Noah to sell his laptop, his motorcycle, and pick up extra shifts just to survive. Out of pure desperation, he's digging through these old family documents looking for insurance papers. But instead, he finds a sealed box. Inside is an envelope from his mom that says, "If anything happens to me, open this." And inside that envelope, well, he makes a life-altering discovery. The timeline of what happens next is just incredible. Noah finds out from this secret letter that the man who humiliated him, the billionaire, Richard Sterling, is actually his biological father. It turns out that years ago, Richard's powerful family essentially paid Noah's mom to disappear when she got pregnant, completely hiding the truth from Richard. Noah takes this evidence, which includes an old private DNA medical test, straight to a lawyer. The lawyer suggests filing a massive lawsuit. But Noah? He has a much more public plan in mind.
Fast forward a month. Richard is throwing this huge, highly publicized charity gala, giving a big speech all about family values. And Noah actually manages to hijack the entire presentation. Suddenly, the giant screen behind the billionaire is flashing old documents, hospital records, DNA reports, culminating in this unforgettable sentence. Meet the son Richard Sterling never knew existed. The entire room of celebrities and business leaders falls dead silent as Noah walks right onto the stage. As you can imagine, the fallout is swift. Richard looks closely at Noah and suddenly recognizes his own eyes. That familiar feeling he had during the food delivery finally makes sense. It was blood. After a private investigation confirms that his parents really did hide Noah from him, Richard feels immense guilt for how he treated his own son. After weeks of Noah totally ignoring him, they finally sit down and meet. Richard doesn't even ask for forgiveness right away, but he ultimately pays for Noah's mother's treatment. And not as some cheap PR stunt, but simply because it's the right thing to do. Trust slowly builds up, and years later, Richard is sitting proudly in the front row at Noah's college graduation. Section 3. The Janitor's Hidden Empire. Now, let's shift gears from the corporate world over to the brutal social hierarchy of a high school. We meet two very different students here. First is Ethan. He's carried the same worn-out backpack for 3 years and is pretty much dismissed by everyone simply because his dad, Michael, is a school janitor. Then we have Brandon Carter. Brandon comes from this massively wealthy family. His dad actually donates millions to the school. This financial leverage basically turns Brandon into an entitled bully who thinks the rules just do not apply to him. Brandon's plot to ruin Ethan unfolds in these clear, really devastating steps. First, he intentionally trips Ethan in the cafeteria, loudly mocking him and his janitor dad in front of the whole school. But Brandon doesn't stop there. When final exams roll around, Brandon secretly plants the exam answers right in Ethan's locker. The trap is completely sprung when Ethan gets called down to the principal's office and accused of cheating, with Brandon just sitting over in the corner smirking. Because of this, Ethan's scholarship gets immediately suspended.
So, facing this special school board assembly for his permanent expulsion, Ethan is feeling completely hopeless. His whole world is collapsing. But when he gets home, his dad, the janitor, isn't angry at all. He just smiles and tells Ethan that the truth always shows itself. Later that night, Ethan wakes up and finds his dad secretly meeting with a whole team of lawyers, surrounded by stacks of documents.
The very next morning, the principal is standing up on stage in front of the entire school, getting ready to expel Ethan. Suddenly, a team of lawyers in very expensive suits interrupts the assembly. They march up, plug a laptop into the giant screen, and present this stunning evidence. First, they reveal that a massive real estate company actually owns the land the school is built on. Then, they throw up the shareholder list for everyone to see. And finally, they play a security recording that clearly shows Brandon planting those exams in Ethan's locker late at night. Then the lawyers drop a bombshell. They reveal the name at the very top of that real estate company's shareholder list, Michael Parker. The mocked, ignored janitor is actually the largest shareholder of the company that owns the school's land. In an instant, the entire auditorium realizes the man they treated like dirt is actually one of the wealthiest men in the city. But here is the absolute most staggering part of all this. Michael Parker inherited this massive fortune 20 years ago. He didn't lose his money. He wasn't forced into manual labor. He deliberately chose to work honestly as a janitor, hiding his wealth, because he was completely content with living a humble life. So, with that undeniable video evidence out there, Brandon gets expelled and the principal is actually forced to resign. A week later, the school holds another assembly to publicly apologize. Michael Parker takes the stage, but he doesn't gloat, he doesn't threaten anybody. Instead, he explains his whole philosophy with this incredible quote. I worked as a janitor because honest work deserves respect. Unfortunately, many people here judged others based on money instead of character.
Section 4. Defining True Wealth.
What's really fascinating here is how these two case studies perfectly mirror each other. Richard Sterling and Brandon Carter both started from a place of deep arrogance. Richard insulted a delivery boy and Brandon framed a janitor's son. But look at how they reacted when faced with the truth. Richard felt genuine guilt, chose accountability, and ultimately earned a place back in his son's life. Brandon, on the other hand, doubled down on his malice, tried to ruin an innocent kid's life, and faced total expulsion. Wealth gave them both power for sure, but their choices are what dictated their fates. Ultimately, both of these stories really force us to rethink how we assign human value. It is perfectly summarized by Michael Parker's profound definition, which he delivered to that dead silent auditorium. True wealth is not what you own, but how you treat people who have absolutely nothing to offer you. It's the ultimate test of integrity.
So what are the big takeaways from this explainer? Well, first off, society's assumptions about status completely blind us to reality, whether it's a billionaire literally not recognizing his own flesh and blood, or a whole school ignoring the man who owns the ground they're standing on. Second, your true character isn't shown in how you treat your boss. It's exposed in your lowest interactions, like talking to a delivery driver or a janitor. And finally, as Noah learned, the greatest revenge isn't destroying someone else. It's simply becoming so successful that the people who underestimated you are forced to face the truth.
As we wrap up this explainer, I'm going to leave you with this to chew on in your own life. Are you judging the person in front of you right now, not knowing they might be the very one who will shape your destiny? How often do we overlook the incredible potential of the people right in front of us, simply because of the uniform they happen to be wearing today? Keep that in mind the next time you interact with someone you assume has nothing to offer you. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive, and keep learning.